You should play Rolling Realms. Rolling Realms is a roll and write game designed by Jamey Stegmaier and also published by Stonemaier Games. Jamey Stegmaier is actually the president of Stonemaier Games, and he's been the designer of not only Rolling Realms, but also some other big games such as Viticulture and Scythe, for example, which are also, of course, Stonemaier Games. So they're a very well-known publisher. They make some really, really fantastic games. Wingspan is one of my favorite games and one of my family's favorite games. And I decided to pick this up. If you watched my last video on my sort of Christmas haul, I didn't actually have this game yet, so I took a small road trip with my family down to Edmonton, Alberta. We hit up the Edmonton Mall, and so I obviously in a new city, in a new place, have to see the board game stores there. So we hit up the board game store that was in the Edmonton Mall, and this was one of the games that caught my eye, mainly because it is a pretty well-known roll and write game, and I was more curious in the genre ever since playing Cartographer's Heroes, which was in that last video. And because that one wasn't a traditional roll and write game, that was more like a flip and write game because it had cards in it. And I've heard of Rolling Realms before, but I never jumped the gun on buying it. So I decided to pick it up, and for New Year's Eve, my family chilled out and played Rolling Realms, and we actually had a really, really good time. And so I wanted to make a video on it, just in case some of you have heard of this game and maybe just like myself haven't jumped the gun on it. And yeah, so it's a very, very simple game, as with most roll and write games, as you probably know. And this game was actually, funny enough, it was reading the rule book. There was sort of a little like prologue or I don't know, I can't remember the technical term, but like an intro from Jamey. This was actually designed sort of like as a pandemic game during COVID. So it was designed to be played remotely. It was, you can actually find a free version online if you actually want to give it a try. There's a print and play version that you can find online, but I really, really love the components in this one. It's just super, super nice looking, obviously, when you get the physical copy, and it's nice to have something on your shelf. But if you do just want to sort of try it out and demo it, then you can print and play and see if you like it, see if your friends like it as well, because you can play it with any amount of people, like with other roll and write games as well. The physical version, though, does come with sort of 6 components for 6 players, so that is sort of the max for just at least the physical board game, unless you get multiple copies. But let's get into how Rolling Realms plays. So again, Rolling Realms is super, super easy. I have the components laid out here. This is all that you will be getting. There is also some cards that is a separate game mode that is included. I actually believe the mini golf mode is not in the print and play version. So this is sort of an extra bonus that you get, which we'll get into a little bit later. But this is sort of the core components. You have the 2 dice, which are very, very large, but very, very satisfying to roll. Probably just don't want to roll it on wooden tabletops because they are pretty hefty. You have 6 dry erase markers and 6 of the wipers just to clear the cards when you need to. And every single one of these decks for each player that are color coded, they all have the same thing. So they'll all have the scoring card, which is labeled here. So this is not only keeps track of your score during the 3 rounds that you'll be playing this game in, but also all these squares at the top are just to fill in the numbers that you roll during the course of the turn, so you can sort of keep track of what has been rolled in previous turns. And then everyone also has a resource tracker that will essentially fuel extra abilities. They can range from, if you have a certain amount of pumpkins at the top there, it allows you to augment your dice, raising the value by 1 or lowering it by 1. If you have the coins down here, you can, produce extra imaginary dice to use on your cards. And then you can even do stuff with the hearts, such as just gaining certain extra values of dice of the ones that have been rolled. So these are all, these are something that everyone has. Additionally, everyone has the same actual mini game card. So the whole goal of this game is to essentially get, just like with most of these roll and write games, it's just the matter of scoring the most points, or in this case, the amount of stars at the bottom. So each card can be scored up to a max of 6 stars. And during the course of 3 rounds, you're going to be having 3 different cards to play on. And all of these have a variety of different things. They're all sort of their own mini games. And as you can tell by the titles, there's Scythe there's Between Two Castles, Charterstone, there's the actual Scythe, Pendulum, Viticulture, Euphoria, Between Two Cities, Tapestry, The Society, and Wingspan. And you can tell from the names, these are obviously references or direct pulls from the Stonemaier games, which is very, very cool. And, you know, they're obviously related to them in some ways. So, for example, in Wingspan, there's, you know, actual wingspan values you have to try and match with your dice rolls. But let's just say, for example, let me clear some of these out of the way, the rest of the cards, so I can sort of show you how to play. Alright, so I have my own little play area set up here. Good to mention as well, like most roll and write games, this is an excellent solo game. So if you are looking for a very, very chill roll and write game to play on your own, this is also a very perfect fit. But obviously everyone who's going to be playing in the game is going to get their own colored deck, and they're going to get, of course, their dry erase marker and their dry erase cloth, just to wipe the cards off after you're done. And so I've already laid out 3 cards here, and that occurred because you're going to have one person take their full deck of 11 cards, you're going to shuffle them, and then you're going to draw 3 cards randomly, and then everyone else at the table is going to look through their deck and draw these exact same cards out. So everyone is playing with the same stuff, everyone's sort of getting the same amount of information, so it's very, very easy to do things there. They're, of course, also going to lay out their scorecard on the right here, and you can see on the right here, and the resource card on the left, and that is essentially all the setup that you need. It's a very, very easy game to set up, a very, very easy game to play, and it's a lot of fun. So the whole point of the game, of course, is to score as many stars as possible. You can see each card at the bottom here has 6 stars that you can possibly score, and you're going to be playing these 3 cards over 9 turns, and that 9 turns is going to equal 1 round. You can see there's 9 slots to list all the different numbers that you roll throughout the round. And then after the round is done, you're going to be erasing all of this and then filling in with a new set of 3 cards. You're going to draw 3 new cards. And then that is going to be, you know, round 2 and so on and so forth until you've done 3 full rounds. And that'll be it for the game. And then you're going to count up all these stars at the very end. Now, there are, of course, 11 cards total in the game, so over the course of 3 rounds, you're going to be playing 9 cards, so you won't be seeing every single card in the deck. So it does offer a little bit of replayability in that sense, so you can sort of have some surprise as to what's being drawn out of the deck. So one turn is just going to consist of one person rolling the dice. It's going to, of course, go around the table each turn, and so we're going to roll here. And everyone's going to be listing these 2 numbers as the result. So we got a 1 and we got a 2. So I'm going to list 1 and 2 in the first slot here. So those are the first 2 numbers listed. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. It's just mainly to keep track of what has been rolled for that turn. And then from there, everyone is going to slot those numbers in to one of these specific cards. You can only use 1 number on 1 card, and you can only activate the card once unless otherwise specified. So for example, pumpkins actually allow you to activate a card twice. So there are ways to get around that, but the general rule is you assign 1 number to 1 card, and that is it. So realistically, without any resources or without any shenanigans, you're going to be playing 2 out of the 3 cards each turn. Now, obviously, if there is another way for you to produce a 3rd dice, like using coins, for example, or other ways to sort of finagle your way into playing the 3rd card, that is going to be the most efficient way, of course, to spend your time, because that is going to, typically accrue you the most points. Now, the whole point of the game is to figure out exactly the best way to assign the numbers, because each of these mini games plays very, very differently. They're typically not related to each other at all, like they won't affect each other. There are some exceptions. So for example, My Little Scythe and how you score this one, you actually don't score based off the mini game that you do here. You actually score based off the amount of resources you gained from all 3 cards, at least getting 6 of a certain resource to get the 2 points per resource. So if you got 6 pumpkins, that would give you 2 points, 6 hearts, and 6 coins, at least at minimum. And that would allow you to get all 6 stars for this thing. So that is sort of one of the few ways that it can sort of relate to other cards, but typically the cards will sort of be their own thing. And yeah, like the rules for each minigame are listed at the top there, and how they're scored is at the bottom. So let's take Between Two Castles here, for example. So it says fill squares from the bottom up. Each number must be lesser than the number directly below it. You gain resources when completing a column. So how you score this one is you score 1 star per completed row, and each castle has 3 rows. So even this solo little cell here, that's considered a row. So it's 1, 2, 3 rows. You have 3 rows per castle. That'll equal the 6 stars that you can potentially score on this. But again, a lot of this game is figuring out, okay, do I try to go for some points early on, or do I try to get some resources on the card to, fill up my resource marker and to start activating extra abilities to sort of snowball into more things in the future. So with our roll here, for example, this wouldn't actually be a great these wouldn't be great numbers to roll for this specific card because they're pretty low rolls. Because each number has to be lesser than the number directly below it. If I put a 1 here, no number that I roll in the future can actually be slotted up above. So I sort of lock myself out there. So then I have to figure out, okay, where else to put these numbers. Well, maybe I can put them into my little scythe. This is pretty straightforward. I can mark one of the hexes and gain a pumpkin or gain a heart. And if I match them, then I can get a coin as well in a future turn. A lot of this game as well is planning things out because you're not going to be getting potentially either resources or points for potentially multiple turns. Sometimes you have to sort of build, and sometimes it's sort of like a multi-step process. So So in this one turn, I would maybe say, okay, let's assign the 1 here. So I'd mark off this 1, and then I would get the resource that is associated with it. So I would get a pumpkin. So I would just circle the pumpkin, and that would be that activation. So I've assigned this number to this card, so I can no longer assign something to this card, and I also cannot use the 1. But I can use the 2 here, again, as a pretty low number, so I probably don't want to put it in between 2 castles. I want to put my higher numbers first, so I can sort of build upwards and complete that column. So let's fill it into viticulture here. So viticulture, I will essentially assign the number that's associated with the grape here, and I'll outline the grape. So there's a 2 grape here. I'm going to outline the grape with my excellent, but not excellent, drawing capabilities. And then because I've circled that grape, I'll get the resource, which gives me a coin, which I'll circle on my resource tracker. Now this one and how you score it is, again, a sort of a 2-step process. So when you assign a number to this card, you can either gain a grape by outlining it, which also means it can't be, of course, gained in the future because it's already marked. Or you can use the sum of 1 dice and the value of a grape you've previously outlined to get the wine order completed if that sum is equal to or more. So obviously the minimum that I could get a wine order completed is if I fulfilled the 4. So if I filled in the 4, for example, in a future turn, if I rolled a 6, I could combine that dice 6 that I got with this grape, this 4, and that would equal 10. That would equal this wine order. So I could then cross off this 10 and get 2 points, because you get 2 points per wine order completed. 3 wine orders, that'll be 6 points total for that card. And so that is it. That essentially was my turn. So the next person would then roll their dice. We got a 4 and we got a 6. So the next slot gets filled in. We got 4 and we got 6. And then the whole thing would be repeated. I would assign, because this is a really high number, this would actually be great to put into between 2 castles. So I could put that 6 here. Well, actually, I'd want to put that 6 here because that gives me the most time to actually fill out the rest, because anything that I roll now is going to be lesser than the 6, so I can fulfill the condition at the top and start filling them from the bottom to the top. And that is it. That is the game. Using the resources, it sort of depends the minimum amount that you need per resources too. So if I had 2 pumpkins, I could adjust a dice, one, +1 or -1, so I could make this into a 5. Now, when you are using the resources to augment the dice, that is only for you. So whatever is rolled, it always stays that way for everyone else. But let's say I did use a couple of pumpkins and make this 6 into a 5. That would be only for me. So I could use that 5 that I made and use it on something, just as if it rolled a 5, for example. But that is essentially the game. That you run through 9 turns. You're going to be calculating the points for that round. Additionally, you get 0.1 stars per resource. So if you get 10 resources, then that'll equal 1 star. So that's another way you can gain points. Not typically the way that you normally would want to gain points, but it's just an extra bonus for any unused resources, because your resources do get wiped as well, between rounds. So you want to make sure to cash them in when you can, or if you feel like you've got a ton of them, you can cash them in, just not use them, and you can get some extra points that way. And that is it. So after 9 turns, you're going to be getting rid of these cards. You're going to be, of course, wiping everything off, and you're going to be drawing 3 new cards from the deck, or someone else will, and everyone else will, of course, get those 3 cards. You're going to wipe your score sheet, except, of course, the score total at the bottom, and your resource tracker, and then you're going to start again. And that is the name of the game. It's a really, really fun game. It's very, very quick, and also once you sort of get a handle on the mini games, it is very, very interesting seeing how different people approach different mini games and how people build out their scores. It's very, very fun. Again, similar to sort of how Cartographers plays. Now, not only that, the game does come with a solitaire mini golf game mode as well. So this is pretty much the exact same. The only, like in terms of how you play the general game, it's the exact same. The only difference is you do have these cards that will sort of represent the different holes, and each hole will give you a very, very specific order of what realms you're actually supposed to be drawing out of your deck, and exactly what kind of rule changes will be happening for that hole, and then how many stars you need to actually make that hole a success. And you can play this with multiple people, but it does say that it's sort of a little bit of a solo mode, but there's sort of a golf tracker to sort of see how many tries it took you for each little thing, and you can sort of work on beating your own score. And of course you can print more of these if you do need to. It sort of has 3 slots that you can attempt, I guess, and it's got a little nice graphic at the back just to sort of represent the Rolling Realms golf course, but has no mechanical things there. But yeah, that is gonna do it. A pretty short video. I just want to sort of run over this game because I think it's fantastic. I do really, really like it. I will say I think some people might have a little bit of trouble wrapping their heads around some of the mini games. So I definitely would recommend, if you are someone who's a little bit more adept at reading game rules and sort of figuring out game lingo and stuff like that, I would give a look through the cards first when you're trying to teach this game, because some of the wording and stuff like that, especially for like this Scythe card, for example, can be a little bit wonky. And it can make it pretty confusing, especially when you do get into sort of the 2-step processes that some cards have to actually score the points. Scythe was one of the cards that my family definitely had some trouble understanding right off the bat and figuring out exactly how you cash out the points. So definitely give it a look through. But, my mom and my dad even got a handle of it by the end of the first game that we played. So, it doesn't really matter your game experience. I think everyone can have a lot of fun with this game. But yeah, I don't really have too many complaints, to be honest. I don't think, the abstractness of some of the stuff just takes some getting used to and takes some learning. But overall, I have an absolute blast with this game. It's a really, really great solo game. And yeah. That's going to do it, I think, for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you've played Rolling Realms yourself, definitely let me know how your experience was with it, and let me know what your high score is. I'm very, very curious. I know that people who play this game and are very, very good at it, they can get like 50+ points, I believe, in like a full game, which our family got nowhere close to. So it's very, very cool to see that there is quite a bit of strategy and sort of how you plan things out. There's a lot of decisions you have to make. So even though it's a very, very simplistic package, one of the things that I like about it is it does have quite a bit of depth and sort of how you decide to plan things out and the different approaches that people take to actually planning out their realms, which is the most fun thing to sort of see as well. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll definitely be back with probably a talk about Cartographer's Heroes as well, because that's a very similar game, and I can sort of do a little bit of a comparison maybe there. And then I've got a lot of other games to talk about as well from the holidays. Hopefully you enjoy me for those ones, and I will see you in the next one.